I just took these beautiful sweet potato pies out and 2 coconut custard pies out, and I'm taking them to the homeless shelter in Greenville today for part of our Thanksgiving dinner that we do for them annually. But the oven's hot. I have some leftover sweet potatoes that are ready to go, and look what I'm going to add to them, and I'm going to pre-make some of my Thanksgiving dinner. You are welcome to vary these spices, but I like a lot of spices. Here's about 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I even use that in my apple pie. A scant amount, probably just a dash of allspice, and then a tiny little pinch of cloves. You can vary this as you'd like. Over here we have 1 stick of melted butter, which is a 1/2 cup. We've got only the best Madagascar bourbon vanilla, and we're going to add about 1 teaspoon or a 1.5 teaspoons of that, and 2 eggs. And the small can of evaporated milk would be great. I don't have one, but we're going to use about 5 ounces, which is one of those small cans. But I'm just going to measure it out. It's just a little over a 1/2 cup. Let's get going. Now I'm going to tell you something about sweet potatoes. I've already talked about this. Some sweet potatoes have strings. These do not have very many at all. But if you'll use this whisk attachment and go around at a fast speed, you can get them out. If you go, I'm not going to do it now because these don't really have very many, but I'll show you what they look like. They're just little teeny strings. There's just a very, very, very few on here. But some of the stringiest, you'll have to get the sweet potato off and rinse off the strings and do it a couple of times to make your sweet potatoes less stringy. We're going to go ahead and add the melted butter. That was 1 stick of melted butter. And I'm going to go ahead and start this out on low to incorporate it. Go ahead and add the sugars in and the spices. Now when you start off with dry ingredients into a wet condition batter, you always start slow so you don't sling anything. Now at this point, everything you've got is cooked. So you can actually taste it now before you put the eggs in and see if the spices are to your liking. Always start with a smaller amount. You can work your way up. You can't take it out of it. Okay, it tasted good to me, so I'm going to add the 2 eggs on slow. And while they're incorporating, I'm going to measure out my milk. This is still going slow, and while it is, I'm going to slowly mix in that 5 ounces of evaporated milk, which is a small can or just a little bit over a 1/2 cup, and let it take it all in. And then we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, and make sure you use good vanilla. Actually, y'all can save money by using good vanilla. It does not take as much to get the same amount of flavor. The vanilla is expensive. Even the cheaper vanillas are not cheap anymore. Scrape down the sides. Now this is when you can see if you have a whole bunch of strings. You should have got the strings off before you add the other ingredients, because you don't want to throw away all the other ingredients. And I don't have enough to worry about, so we're good. A few is fine. The beater covered in them is not fine. Okay, I beat it for about 2 minutes. And if you have the balloon whisk, it's going to whip some air in it. If you don't have a whisk attachment, or you just have regular beaters, just do it for about 3 minutes. Now, this is 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Or actually a week and a half. I'm going to put this into a freezable container. And I'm going to, this is already made ahead for Thanksgiving, but I'm going to cook a little bit, just a small container. I would put this in a 9x13 pan. This is just a small cast iron pan that I'm going to cook you some and show you how to do it ahead of time. So this is going in the freezer to be defrosted and put in a 9x13 pan on Thanksgiving morning. I'm going to put the topping on it and then bake it at 350 for about 30 to 35 minutes. But for today's purposes, I've got a small, shallow cast iron baking pan that we're going to do the same thing for demo. Now for the streusel topping, I've got about 3/4 cup of regular flour, all-purpose, a teaspoon of cinnamon, half teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and then just a dash of the cloves and the allspice. And I'm going to mix the sugar, which is 3/4 cup of brown sugar, and we're going to mix that thoroughly. When that's all mixed up and thoroughly incorporated and looks even, we're going to add 1 stick of melted butter. And we're going to mix that in. And this is where you have some choices, okay? You have some choices. You can add chopped pecans or pecans, about half to a 3/4 cup, very finely chopped. Don't rough chop them. Or you can add some other things like craisins. You can add coconut. You can add even a few marshmallows if you want to keep it ultra traditional. It's up to you. Now I happen to love pecans, so I'm going to add just the pecans. But you can be as creative as you want to be. Word of caution, not everybody likes coconut, the texture of it. And another thing, pecans, for some of your relatives, may be hard to chew. Just keep that in mind. You crumble the topping on top and then stick it in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. That's for a full size. This small one here, I'm probably going to take out about 15 or 20 minutes. We'll see. Here it is, y'all. Coming right out of the oven. This is hardened up. You can see the little bit of browning that you've got, but it's not dark brown. Now you can dig into it, scoop it on your plate, and yum, yum, yum. That would add some good stuff to any type of Sunday dinner, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, anytime. And it's very, very good. Y'all make it today. Or make it ahead of time and put it in your freezer and cook it on Thanksgiving morning. Make it simple on yourselves, y'all. Thank you so much.